here for game number 1 of the best of 3 semifinal. Winner goes on to the grand final to play up against the No Names. And Gems, you talked about, oh, I didn't even start my replay. That's a good move, Piff. Good move. So I swear it was the button's fault. So we talked about how Toronto Esports are so flexible with their pickups. With that being said, what do you think they're going to go for early in the draft?
Well, I do think we're going to see the Sevrog ban. I wouldn't be surprised if we also see Faye being banned out. The thing is, with Toronto, they have so many heroes they can flex into multiple positions. I feel like they're going to prioritize the flex ones first. So the Zinks, where you can play her in the support, or we've seen them play in the carry. The same with the Crunch, potentially, or the Rampage even as well. Heroes which are strong can be flexed potentially, maybe not the Rampage, but definitely the Crunch and the Zinks can be flexed into multiple positions in the jungle, in support, and that's kind of where they're going to be putting their prioritization. Try keep Prets on their feet in terms of what's going to be being picked and played.
I feel like Toronto Esports, they just have so many weapons at their disposal that you're really at a loss on what you can ban out and what you can pick in order to try to counter them. There's just so many different ways that they can go with their draft and so many dangerous players on their side. I mean, Mari Rivia, he's definitely a standout support player, and he's one of the reasons why Toronto Esports are just so good, because he's pretty much a master at the support role.
Yeah, he can play pretty much anything you give him to a very, very strong degree. And they do go for that Rampage first from Toronto, which is interesting.
We haven't
to
seen
say
it yet.
because
I'm a little bit behind you.
Well, it is Rampage. I've already spoiled it. It's interesting because it does leave up spoilers. It does leave up the Muriel. Whether or not Prets will be going for that, though, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, going for the Rampage first is a bold move. Many would say of Toronto Esports, sponsored by Doritos. Just kidding, they're not. Going for the Rampage is a pretty strong pick for them, and we'll see what Prets are going to pick up alongside of it. They do pick up the Gideon. I think in the past, Prets were kind of an Iggy team. Iggy's been a little bit passed by in version 44.3, so I don't really think we're going to see that from them here, but they're definitely not afraid to pick up those OP mids that everybody seems to be afraid of.
Yeah, so they're going for the Gideon, and it does look like they haven't actually gone for that Muriel either. So we do see a Quang pickup, which leaves Toronto with a very, very good option there. And they can pick Muriel. They can then pick, they pick Muriel and Zinx, denying a support away here from the side of Prets in the side of Zinx. And it looks like we're going to be seeing Mikey on that carry Zinx again.
Oh, look, it's a Muriel. And a Zinx, as you said. It's like Gems is an oracle or something. He's predicting the future, guys. It's like Gems is a couple minutes or a couple seconds in the future. Someone might hire for that in the future.
Well, if you could click the button when you say you could click the button,
I thought I did.
That would help greatly as well.
I thought I did. So as you said, Toronto Esports picking up the Zinx, which is definitely not going to be in the support role. And remember, we did see a carry Zinx from Mikey yesterday. Could also be a mid Zinx. We've seen quite a bit of that. But on the other side, Prets have gone for a Revenant with that extra ability damage and the Marauder type combo.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not too sure on Prets' lineup overall. I feel like they have given potentially a little bit too much away here to Toronto. Toronto have pretty much gotten everything they could pretty much wish to get in terms of a team composition. They do play that duo lanes or bully lane with the poke with the Zinx and the Muriel. And we can now see them grab that Crunch as well, potentially going in the off lane on the side of Karma. And to round it off, you're probably going to see potentially a Bellica or probably a Bellica, I suspect. Probably the best thing to pick out and round off this composition from Toronto.
Bellica definitely does seem pretty good, and they'll be the ones to pick it up here as well. So Crunch, Bellica to round out the draft. This is really strong from Toronto. It looks very difficult for Prets to try to counter it. They're going to pick up a Richter with their last pick to see if they can, but it seems like, as you said, Toronto Esports had a wish list, and Santa gave them every single thing that they wanted. So we'll see how that works out for both sides. But with that being said, we do have a game queued up for you guys here. So we'll start it up in 3, 2, 1, go. And I, for one, would love to welcome everybody to our second semifinal of the day between Toronto Esports and Prets. Let's go ahead and introduce the blue side. We've got Undead Pilot playing a Belka on the mid lane. Mikey will be handling the carry Zinx. Once again, we've got Marty Rivia playing a Muriel. Karma handling the Crunch. And then finally, it's going to be Blood Mortius playing a Rampage out of the jungle.
And on the red side, on the side of Prets, we have strongest step on that Decker, Spazzy Boy Zaltek. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that.
I'm sure that's
one.
Close enough.
Correct me. Ronnie Tube on that Revenant, Brainy 23 on that Quang, and Recusio on that Gideon.
We'll have to see how Prets are able to do here. A lot of people would pick Toronto Esports as their favorites in this one, but that's why we play the games. That's why we try and see who's able to kill that core first, because this is all about the surprises. So we'll see if Prets are able to surprise us here. If we go through the lanes, I mean, it is a strong side start for Toronto on the left lane, so it allows Blood Mortius to be pretty effective in this lane, and we don't see the earlier words that we're accustomed to from this Prets duo.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, I feel like, especially against this duo from Marty and Mikey. Very, very high poke heavy. Decker hasn't got the greatest sort of poke, is pretty reliant on the stun. We've already seen early back coming out here from the Decker to probably just grab that ward, grab the consumable wards, and try get up this safe zone of space for them to sit in this lane against this duo. Because they are on the weaker side, expect a lot of ganks from Blood. He has been shown to hover around that safe lane quite a bit.
While we're not really seeing a very good lane at all in the duo, we do see the first blood from Undead Pilot flopping down the Russian flag on the Russians. And, well, in the other lane in the duo, we're going to see the second blood onto the Revenant as well. So Toronto Esports in tandem with their aggression. Now, the one lane that isn't going so well for Toronto Esports is the solo lane. Karma's not really been able to do well in the early levels against Brainy, who's going to take some tower damage, but gets Karma within inches of his life here. So he might have forced out an early back from Karma as soon as the minion wave gets out from underneath the tower.
Yeah, there's 2 kills on the board already here from the side of Toronto.
And that's exactly what you're asking for when you go for that aggression. Karma goes right on with that rock from Blood Mortius, and they're able to clean up the Quang, and they punish him for his aggression. And, well, with that, I would say that every single lane is going in favor of Toronto Esports at this point.
Yeah, it really has been. And it's been very good on Blood. He's been at multiple spots on the map already in the first couple of minutes. He's managed to secure kill in his mid lane and in that solo lane for himself, and has got this purple buff. And now be prepared to see him rotate, try and look for another kill here as well with this buff.
Well, Recursiu gets into the duo lane with the red buff, but there is a response from Blood Mortius. He is invisible, gets seen by the ward right there, so they know who is lurking in the shadow plane for them. And that'll just force Blood to get back, but how far back does he go? Because he's made his way over to the mid lane, and I don't think that the Recursiu getting is expecting this one. Seismic Assault goes down, it's going to miss. Void Bomb is missed as well. It seems like a bit of an early engage from Undead Pilot, and that's going to allow Recursiu to get away.
Yeah, it's already looking pretty rough. Looking at the gold lead, it's already sitting at about 4,000 here on the side of Toronto. There's a couple of kills have given them a perfect little start here. Just looking at builds, we do seeing the Rejuvenators on the board from both Undead and Mikey. Gives themselves that active health regen and mana regen with a couple of charges, and the font of experience in Mikey. Try grab that level 5 as soon as possible.
I like to see Rejuvenator making its way into a lot of decks, allows you to have even more sustain on the mid lane, especially when you're ahead. You don't want to lose out on the lane just because you're low on mana and forced to go for those buffs that you might not be able to get. So with the Rejuvenator, it allows these heroes to be a lot more effective. Now, Blood Mortius comes in from the side. Maybe they are able to take something here. Mikey goes forward. Marty Rivia is available for some damage as well. Consecrated Gown taking Ronnie Tube mostly down. One last hit will do it. Rock picked up for Blood Mortius. but they're not going to go for any more kills, especially with Spossiville coming around as the Richter. Make sure that both teams back away from there, but still Toronto Esports are in the green there with 1 kill on their side.
Yeah, it's still looking rough. Richter here hasn't actually been able to do a sort of successful gank during the early game. He's been pretty busy farming up and allowing Toronto to get away with whatever they want to do on the board. And we do need to see some pressure. It is the Richter jungle. We were talking about it earlier in the fact that you don't see it as often anymore because it's a very high risk hero, especially with that hook. If you do end up missing it, that's most of your gank pressure just gone there. And it is very difficult to hit. It can also be interrupted quite a bit with things like the seismic assault from a Belaga if timed correctly.
It just seems so difficult to play a Richter nowadays, and that's why it's fun to see it. You like to see people do it extremely well with it, but in this match we haven't really seen Spossiville get it running at all. So hopefully he's able to get a couple of hooks to make things a little bit better for his team. Recursive tried to go for an interrupt on the Undead Pilot recall, but nothing doing there. He manages to get back in time. So at least Gideon has some breathing room on this lane, but I'm wondering how long that's going to be taking, because with the Undead Pilot back, surely he's going to pick up a couple of cards here. They're going to make him even stronger on that mid lane.
There is an invade here coming up from Blood Mordius, trying to fight this Richter here.
Oh yeah, he's ready to go, and Karma is going to join him as well. They're going to knock him up in the air, and the electric field is not going to be there much longer. Spossiville is going to fall. Recursive comes in with the black hole, but it's really done not much at all. The Void Bomb is going to be placed on top of him as well, placed daintily by Undead Pilot, but he's still going to fall. 2 dead in the jungle. That invade works wonders for Toronto Esports. They're ready to take a tier 1 tower mid. They're also putting pressure on the tier 1 tower in the left lane.
Yeah, very, very strong showing out here from Toronto. 6-0 on the board. They've already got a 9k lead. It's just going to keep growing. I mean, this is very, very strong here from Toronto. They don't even need to go for this Fangtooth. They have such a dominating lead in each of these individual lanes that Prets are going to have a really rough time trying to call back. They really need this Richter jungle to come online, try get some good picks here with the hook, but hasn't been able to do that just yet.
We talked last game about the mistakes that you definitely can't make against these top teams, and it feels like Prets are just making the same mistakes that we saw the Stack have in our first semifinal series of the day. Now Karma is taking some damage here. We've got Recursive, Brainy, and Spossiville chasing him down. Forward crunch, can it get Karma away? No, that Riplash is going to miss, so indeed it does. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Ronnie Tube, he tries to get some work done, but he's just not really able to do that much at all. He's going to get frozen in mid-air as Toronto Esports are going to cut him down. And they haven't really dropped anything in this game. Toronto Esports taking advantage of every single mistake that Prets are making here.
Yeah, all that pressure that Prets said to try and take out Karma allowed Toronto then to have a free reign in that duo lane to try and get as much jungle pressure. And it looks like they're going to be setting up here for this Fangtooth right now. They have a good lead in terms of power. They could even look to start a fight here by taking this Fangtooth. Sort of, if there is no answer to it, it's a free Fangtooth.
It is definitely a free Fangtooth, and it looks like Undead Pilot is going to continue to keep Gideon backed out of it as well with the Void Bombs and the Seismic Assaults doing so much damage to him. Is Undead Pilot going to go for even more damage? Gets that auto shield out, and with that he's just going to back away, but can he even do that? Stasis Bomb is there. Ronnie Tube throws out the Obliterate, but Undead Pilot's fine. Throws down a Seismic Assault. Seems like everybody manages to dodge it, so he's just creating space here. It's alright. Maybe he would prefer not to die, but in the end, his team is going to get the Fangtooth and say, alright, Undead Pilot, you did your job. Go die now. Thanks.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of missed abilities coming out here on the side of Prets. We saw a lot of missed meteors coming up from Recursive. This is not stuff that you really can be getting away with here in these sort of matches. You can already see Toronto taking full advantage of seeing cooldowns being used and not being applied. So the second they see that Gideon meteor miss, that's a good couple seconds of no damage. They can just jump onto the Gideon. The second they see the Riplash miss, we see them jump onto another fight sort of thing elsewhere on the map, and it's just like they're taking full advantage of each of these little bits of cooldowns, keeping track of them and knowing what has and hasn't been used.
Some very strong and aggressive play calling from Toronto Esports. Now, Spasibo is in the shadow plane, so he may be able to finagle something here where he's able to get some pressure onto Toronto Esports, as Marty Rivia and Mikey are on an adventure. They seem to have lost their map and they've wandered onto the Prets side, and they're both going to get hit by the skewer. Here comes a black hole, but it's only onto Marty. Mikey's meanwhile backing away. Ronnie Tube just wants to go for the sure kill, but well, it looks like Marty was blasting off again, and he actually gets the ROF out. Spasibo, he's going to get helped out by Blood Warriors here. It's a turnaround for Toronto Esports, as they were just waiting for their opportunity. Prets thought they saw something in the cards, but the cards were all just terrible. The hand was bad, and now they're going to feel the pain of it. They're going to get the Seismic Assault into Void Bomb from Undead Pilot right on top of the Revenant, and they're going to take 2 kills on the back of some massive aggression from Prets.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't have a clear idea on who they wanted to target. It seemed like the shot calling might have been a bit misleading here from the side of Prets, and ended up with Toronto being able to turn it all around. And because they had such a huge advantage in power already, that was a pretty good clean wipe coming out here from inside Toronto. Karma now going on Brainy here.
Yeah,
this is the power of his front.
He had the position, went right for Brainy. Now, Quang does have a lot of ways to get away, and we know from the last games that Fury of the Heavens can get the Quang out of many different situations. Karma was just going for some harass onto him, and really, there's nothing else for him to do here. May as well go and hit a Quang for a couple seconds, see what can come out of it. Both heroes, though, are going to be regenning quite a bit. So we'll see how much damage it actually does. Uppercut is there. Now, the real problem is if somebody else decides to come over and help him. Blood Maurice is there, has the rock. He'll throw it and hit it onto Brainy. Smacked him up in the air. Karma will take the kill. And Toronto Esports continue to dominate. That's just what happens. You get lured into a fight. You say, oh, I'm not taking damage. It's fine. And then finally, Blood Maurice comes around the corner with a rock and says, happy birthday. Here's a rock. And that's a pretty easy kill for Toronto Esports.
It also might be the second Fangtooth going to them as well. We see them already, as it spawned, have set up around it. And because of this power advantage and also Brainy being down, it isn't a fight that Prets really want to take right now. And second Fangtooth goes over to Toronto.
It's just so difficult for Prets to put any pressure on here. They really have to find the big black hole and get their abilities out, and they have to stop getting caught as well. They have to stop this pressure from Toronto Esports before it gets unbearable, and that just seems like a very difficult task at the time.
Yeah, it becomes very difficult when you've lost a couple of Fangtooths. Giving up that bonus power, you're giving up that gold. Toronto have that extra move speed now with the second Fangtooth out of combat, so their rotations are going to be even faster than before, which makes it very difficult to deal with them. It's kind of an underrated Fangtooth, the out of combat movement speed. But on a map that's small, getting that 10% movement speed means that you can get a couple of seconds shaved off on some of these rotations. And if we're just looking at the time it takes to kill one of these guys, that might just be enough time for Toronto to get full 4-man rotation across the map.
Karma getting aggressive on the Brainy, but here comes the rest of Prets. Skewer out on the Karma. Fury of the Heavens as well. That will punish the crunch. Now the question is what happens on the other side of the map, and you already see Mikey and Marty Rivia going to put some pressure on the left lane as soon as they realize that most of the heroes are on the other side of the map for Prets.
Yeah, it is. So this is what I do like from Toronto. They do recognize that a lot of resources have been spent. Yes, Karma might have dropped down, but they did expend a lot of resources in doing so. So they can be a bit aggressive here on this side of the map.
They can be more aggressive, and you see them going for this as well with Blood Warriors, but Prets have pretty much showed up here while Quang has taken the Tier 1 tower on the other side of the map. So at least Prets are able to find something. They get the Tier 1, they get Brainy back into the game a little bit, and they get some gold for themselves as well. We'll see what is able to happen here. Toronto Esports looking for a kill onto the Gideon. They do hit him with the rock, and Undead Pilot with the confirm is ready for the Seismic Assault. He gets it on the 2 along with the Void Bomb. The damage is huge here from Toronto Esports, and they want to keep on going. They want to get some more towers off the map. They're putting some pressure onto the left lane, putting some pressure on the right, just spreading it all over the place, applied directly to the forehead. And well, right now Prets are just wondering what they can do to try to stop this push from Toronto Esports.
Yeah, that is the Tier 2 down. That is the jump pads being taken away here from the side of Prets. And this whole game has been in favor of Toronto. They've been doing very well from the start of the game. 9-2 on the board. The gold lead is at about 11k here on the board. Just looking at junglers, Bloodmorius is 6k gold lead against Spursy and that's a very substantial lead, and it makes it very difficult for them to really duel against each other. Richter really can't do much here against this Rampage with such a deficit.
Yeah, when you're at such a disadvantage, it's so difficult to get things going against this Toronto Esports lineup. Like we said, they keep on punishing you for every single mistake, and Prets have made a couple too many here. Haven't made that fatal one, but it looks like Toronto Esports, they're just going to continue to keep that hammer swinging down onto the neck of Prets. And all right, Bloodmorius, you can do you. That's fine. Maybe we'll see a rock eventually. I think he's invisible actually, so he'll throw the rock out onto Recursio, start putting some damage there. Caught on the edge of the Void Bomb. That's going to be an easy kill out onto the Gideon. And let's see if we can keep this going here while we fix a couple of the bugs.
Yeah, it does look like that is the case. It is going to be another Fang Tooth here going over the side of Toronto. Every single one has been taken pretty much on spawn, to be honest, and that really isn't going to go well for Prets. This is just advantage after advantage here being built up for Toronto, and the gold lead is still growing on the side of Toronto. It's about what, 20k now, and that is just, we've been saying this in the previous couple of matches, when it gets to that 20k mark, it's near impossible to claw back unless you see a mistake coming out from the opposing team.
It's just so difficult to come back from these. I mean, you've got nearly 75 minion kills in favor of Toronto Esports and so much gold. You're really at this point lacking the cards that you need to really put a dent into this aggression from Toronto Esports, and pretty soon it's not just going to be Fang Tooth that Toronto are able to take, it's going to be the OP buff as well.
Yeah, it does look like they're going to try set up some vision around there now from the side of Toronto. I think they'll be fairly happy to even just force a fight around it. You know, using this Prime as a initiation tool for them to force the rotation out from Prets.
Well, we'll see what Prets can do against this one. It looks like it is about that time of day where they're going to go for the purple guy on the map. They're going to throw the rock onto Spasibo, catching him out on the high ground, and he's not going to be able to do anything. Just smacked into oblivion, and Karma has a whole lot of people on his side when he goes for that kill. Bloodmorius and the rest of the guys, they're going to go on in against Mr. Harambe himself and make pretty quick work of him as well with all of their Flame of Zekins. So they'll go on in, get on out, get ready to take some more tier 2s off the map as well as some inhibs. This is a pretty easy setup from Toronto.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing down these lanes. I don't think there is much that the Prets can realistically do here. There's such high health here on the Rampage, especially with that Unbroken Spirit. He's going to be able to sit there in that front line and soak up so much damage, soak up so many tower shots should they need to. And in comparison, you can see Richter, he's still barely able to get a couple of cards here. He's only sitting with that Malek's Grace.
We're seeing such a difference in economies here, and also a difference in strategy. Toronto Esports, they're putting some pressure onto pretty much every single lane here, forcing Prets to make a move, and if they don't, it's going to be an inhibitor on the line. Belka looking for the initiation. Undead Pilot is so ready to just go. He's looking for the Seismic Assault. He'll put down the Void Drone, and he'll make sure that Prets have to make some kind of initiation decision here. The cage comes out. It's going to hit on the 2. There's a black hole on the backside of it, but it's going to get interrupted immediately. We've seen so many ricochet stuns easily able to stop the Gideon ult in its tracks. Karma goes on in against Strong Estet. That's 2 down from Prets, and it doesn't really look like Toronto Esports are done just yet. Taking down Spasibo. Undead Pilot won't be able to kill him. I believe that was something by Revenant. May have even been a Reckoning. Couldn't really tell there. But
it's 2 down. It isn't inhibited down, so again, this Prime buff is being fully utilized here from Toronto. They're going to want to take as many of these objectives on the map as possible while it's still active, force as many fights, utilize this regen that the Prime buff gives them to constantly pressure down Prets' towers and inhibitors.
They've got so much pressure here. Bloodmorius and Karma being the big men on their team, going for the inhib. right now. They're just going to go right for it. Really not worrying about Prets at all. Undead Pilot will get finally hooked by Spassi, but able to hit one of those. And you see them continuing to go for the Bell Kid. They do manage to get it. Mario Raven couldn't really get the ROF onto the right target. So he's just going to be left with 4 members of his team. But it feels like that's more than enough. Karma is low on health, but they managed to take down the Clang anyway. We've got frozen heroes all over the place. We might be in a Disney movie. I can't even tell. Rock hits on the Recursio. That's going to be another death, and that should be 4 dead on the side of Prets, as this game has been pretty much completely taken over by Toronto Esports and should be ending in the next couple of seconds. Looks like they're pretty healthy. Should be ready to go for the core in just a couple minutes and take game number 1 of this best of 3 semifinal.
Yeah, very strong showing out here from Toronto. Complete control from the first couple of minutes, and that is going to be game 1 Toronto in this second semi-final of the day.
Yep, so they've taken game number 1, and it's pretty much the same kind of blowout that we saw in the earlier semi-final. But in game 2, we saw the stack do much, much better. So can Prets turn this around and show us the performance that we should tend to expect from a semi-final team?
I don't know, it's going to be rough. Losing in such a manner can really demoralize your team, can really set the mindset back. So it's going to be up to them to brush off that match, brush it off completely as if it hadn't happened, and try and start from a fresh slate. Because that's kind of an issue. A lot of the time, when you lose in such a way, it's very difficult to claw back from a mental position. And what they need to do is potentially change up their game plan, change up what they want to do on the board, and maybe even force a different composition, because you really can't allow Toronto getting all those picks. They had pretty much everything they wanted to get from the beginning.
It seemed like Santa had no trouble getting to Toronto Esports for that last match's draft, but maybe Prets can do a little bit of sabotaging along his route to make sure that Toronto Esports don't get everything they want next Christmas, which is going to be happening in just a couple minutes, guys. Game number 2 of this best of 3 semifinal coming up in just a bit.